Hey, this is Steve from Unexplored Films here, back with another filmmaking tutorial. And today I'm going to talk you through how I did my jumping off a moving train video, which is one of the ones in the effects playlist. Now this works with any moving vehicle. It's basically meant to look like you're jumping off a fast moving mode of transport. And what we're basically doing here is combining some location footage with a separate element that you can film at home. And Hollywood's been doing effects like this for years. In fact, the earliest example I can find of something pretty similar is from the 39 Steps made by Alfred Hitchcock in 1935. Now, we filmed this a little while ago actually, so I would probably do this a little bit differently if I was to repeat it. So the first step for this effect is to actually get your background. Now, just to get the safety disclaimer out of the way, please do not do anything stupid to get footage. We recorded our background on a GoPro by putting it through a tiny slit in a window on a train. I did not lean out of the train to get this, so I couldn't actually see what was being filmed. Do not lean out of a moving train or do anything dangerous on any mode of transport to get your footage. It just is not worth it. And a safer option might actually be to download some stock footage that is similar to this, where you don't actually have to film this element yourself. The next stage is to perform the leaning out of the vehicle, which is going to create another layer to go on top. Now, there's a couple of things to bear in mind with this that will help match the original. If you can, match the same camera you used for the previous footage, and that is really going to help sell that you're in the same frame. So we shot the background on a GoPro, so we filmed this on a GoPro as well. Same frame rate, same everything. Now, we didn't actually use a green or blue screen for this. I would if I was doing it these days, but back when we shot this, we wanted to actually do a bit of a chroma key and a bit of a luma key test, and we used a white sheet for this. To be honest, it was more trouble than it was worth, but in the end we made it work. But the main things to mention are matching the light by doing it outside, ideally in similar lighting conditions, matching the camera, and for added believability, try and create some wind effects. Now, we used a leaf blower for this and it was perfect. We aimed it at the back of my head to make my hair blow around, and it just sells that you're leaning out into some really high speed air. So next I just tried to imagine that I was leaning out of this train. I'm kind of looking at the landscape whooshing past. Now, because when we had put the camera out the window, we had luckily got a train coming in the opposite direction, we thought it would be most fun if we used that section. So it's almost like I've leaned out as if I'm doing it for a bet or something crazy, and then I see the train coming the other way and I panic and I jump right in front of it. That was basically what we were trying to make ours look like. So first we put these takes into After Effects and we had to remove the background. Now again, if I'd done this in front of a green screen, which I would recommend, this would be much easier. As I say, we were doing this as a bit of a test for the different keying tools that are available. It didn't do a brilliant job because the sheet wasn't massively evenly lit. In the end, I think it was kind of a combination between keying and the rotoscope tool. I think I actually did a lot of this with rotoscoping in the end. So save yourself some bother, don't do what I did, do it in front of a green screen. The next thing to do was to just do a quick test putting it on top of the background. Now, because we were just holding this camera through the window, it was wobbling around a bit, so it wasn't mega steady. So the next thing to do as well was to actually track the movement of the background layer and save that to a null object, which I could then parent the figure to. And then hopefully it looks like the figure's movements are pretty much matching the train. Next, I realized that to avoid just making it look like one layer had been slapped onto the top of another, there were a couple of embellishments that I could add to make it look like I was leaning out of the doorway of the train and not just in the extreme foreground. Now, there wasn't actually a doorway in this spot right next to where we had filmed this. It's actually just the gap between two carriages, but because there was this kind of red shape in the foreground, I realized I could duplicate that and add it back over my cutout and then darken the patch behind it to make it look like I had appeared between two parts of the train, a foreground and a background. After a while though, I actually decided to go one step further and build a fake door which could slide away to reveal the figure appearing. So for this I took some freeze frames of the carriage and basically copied and pasted some of the texture in Photoshop. I also found some online images of train doors and tried to copy the warning sticker and handle and a few other things like that. And I even added a slight opaque layer in the middle to look like a window. Now this was a 2D object, but with the perspective that I added it was meant to look like a 3D one. Now I'm not a 3D motion graphics person at all, but by turning on the 3D effect and manipulating this and adding a handle at the far end, which was actually a second object and could therefore go in a different direction, I kind of made it look like this was a 3D door. So I could drop this fake door in on top and parent it once again to the null object, which had the train's movement. Then I keyframed the door in 3 dimensions to look like it was moving past the camera, and then the figure appears from behind it. So even though there wasn't a door there at all, we've created an impression of one. I also did a couple of things to disguise the fact that the door is a still image. I flipped the background from the far side and created a very subtle reflection of the landscape moving past. I also added some extra grain and noise just onto the door there to make it match a bit better with the grainy GoPro footage. The door is sitting there from the beginning of the take, and hopefully no one even realizes that it isn't part of the real train. Next, I added some weather elements just onto the top of the whole image, and just something that kind of looks like it's on the camera lens, because it was a pretty cloudy sky in my clip that I'd filmed, so I thought, okay, well maybe there's some slight drizzle, maybe there's some water droplets hitting the camera, there's all this fast moving air hitting it anyway. It was just to give a bit more of an outdoorsy feel to the whole thing and kind of hide all of the layers underneath it. So I tried to add some of that, which gradually increases the longer the camera is actually outside of the train. And when the other train went past, I think I actually doubled that and added some extra splash from that train, as if the force of that was splashing more water onto the camera at that point as well. And then I did a little bit of artificial camera movement by just zooming in probably to about 110%, 120%, something like that, and then just a little bit of artificial panning around once the figure comes out of the carriage. Again, just to trick your brain into thinking that you're seeing one filmed element and not several layers sitting on top of each other. And then finally I realized I could make this look a little bit more like some found footage and something genuine by using the start and the end of the real clip where I put the camera through the gap in the window. So I actually added these clips to the start and the end and recorded myself at the beginning telling a friend to get ready to film the stunt.
Okay, ready, go!
And I used the voice of my friend Nick at the end when he realizes that the stunt has gone wrong and I've fallen off the train.
Steve!
So this was all just designed to make it feel a little bit more like it could be a real stunt and has gone wrong. And then finally I did some sound design, so I started with the original audio from the GoPro of the wind rushing past the camera and the train coming past as well. And I think I added just some subtle noises as well to try and heighten that. So it's probably a little bit more Hollywood sounding than the GoPro, but not super over the top because I wanted this one to feel a bit more found footage-y. So with the background that's filmed on a location or is stock footage, with your foreground elements that you film at home and try and match as best you can, and with some digital finishing touches to knit it all together, this sort of thing can be a really fun effect. But please don't kill yourself filming on any trains. So guys, I hope you enjoyed that. Please give it a go, tell me what you think in the comments, and hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed this. I've been Steve from Unexplored Films, and I'll see you next time.